saw all of these different wings of the right. QAnon adherents, Christian dominionists, MAGA people, like normal, like just hardcore supporters of the president. And we saw out and out neo-Nazis getting closer and closer wound together over their mutual desire to overthrow the elected government, which they all see as illegitimate. They all want to do violence to their political enemies. You can see shades of it within Rush Limbaugh.
There cannot be a peaceful coexistence of two completely different theories of life, theories of government, theories of how we manage our affairs.
Tucker Carlson.
We allowed BLM and Antifa to destroy our country in George Floyd's name. How shocked are we that 17-year-olds with rifles decided they had to maintain order when no one else would?
They've all been urging different chunks of this and been getting people more and more comfortable with the idea of trying to overthrow the government in order to stop the left.
They have been trying to provoke a race war.
They're coming for you and your neighborhood.
We're all going to have to defend ourselves.
Antifa mob saying that if you don't give us power, we're going to keep terrorizing your cities.
They want to destroy America.
We want Trump! We want Trump! We want Trump!
It took a village to make this happen.
So I've been covering the far right and white supremacist movements for a few years now. Since the beginning of the pandemic, I noticed this immediate sort of gathering in online spaces of people who were very against government shutdowns, calling these actions tyranny and organizing themselves into various groups.
The so-called Wolverine Watchmen were furious over coronavirus shutdowns.
The group.
How many months has it been? For how many months have I been talking about these motherfucking LARPers? It's almost been an entire year where we've been talking about how, like, and even before that I was talking about how radicalization is like getting to an alarming rate in the Republican Party, but like for a year we've been talking about, like, well, you know, these militias keep saying they're gonna do some fucked up shit. And then everyone's like, what? I can't believe the militias that said that they were going to be really violent acted on those urges in a really violent way. That's so shocking.
Calls itself Women for America. Organizers call for a full reopening.
A new group called Save Our Country, which is all about lobbying for a quick opening of the economy.
Right after the election, we get a very large Facebook group called
Stop the Steal.
Stop the Steal.
Stop the Steal, a group with some 360,000 members
aimed at delegitimizing the election process.
The page was filled with false claims about voter fraud and called for boots on the ground to protect the integrity of the vote.
We did see protests with the same name popping up in various state capitals.
Stop the steal! Stop the steal! We want justice! We want justice!
If you think you will attack our Constitution, you've got another big.
There's this interlocking network of right-wing thought leaders who have been, for years, increasingly pushing for violence on behalf of this insurgent conservative movement.
But now it's time to act on the enemy. People need to have their battle rifles and everything ready at their bedsides. This is it.
I'd put the heads on pikes, right? I'd put them at the two corners of the White House as a warning.
He's talking about Anthony Fauci. Like, he's literally talking about Anthony Fauci. Like, he's not talking about the usual people that they vilify and act like are violent when they themselves are the violent ones. He's talking about fucking Anthony Fauci, whose biggest mistake is, well, I guess he made a lot of fucking mistakes, but his biggest mistake in this circumstance, in the eyes of these psychopaths, was to assume a role where you are in charge of public health in the United States of America.
Warning to federal bureaucrats. That's how you won the revolution.
What can you and I do to a state legislator besides kill him? Although we should not do that. I'm not advising that, but I mean, what else can you do, right?
When you start seeing that language,
I think you gotta mention that, like, when you put a fucking Nazi on screen like that, you gotta mention that they're a Nazi. I'm just saying. It's my 2 cents on it. Otherwise, you're kind of just like showing these people and
being taken very literally on social media and different forums, to me, that's a very clear red flag. For example, this one post from this website called My Militia, which I've been following for a while now. Somebody writes, I say, take the hill or die trying. I don't know how much more explicit you can be. Posts and comments, even on Instagram, saying violence is necessary. And these are just, 2 examples of a sentiment that has been expressed over and over.
No one has any excuse to be surprised by what happened on the 6th. It was signposted.
here's the reality. Okay. A lot of this stuff is just LARPing. A lot of this stuff is just like people angry and, saying whatever the fuck they want to on social media because they're disillusioned or because they're just fucking upset with the way that the government is or the way that the government works. And it's not as threatening as like the actual violent militias who are organizing specifically to do stuff like this. A lot of this is just keyboard warriors. Like, I'm not trying to fucking send people to jail for posting, okay?
Thank you for all the great content.
Even though technically those posts themselves are still not protected under the First Amendment, just remember that. Like, a lot of the stuff that these people say are literally not protected under the First Amendment. Like, there is no freedom of speech for, like, planning out very openly on a public or private space to murder people unless you are literally doing it for like entertainment reasons or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, there are obvious exceptions, but you cannot straight up be like, here is how we are going to plan to assassinate someone. Right? The issue, though, why are you posting? Myth is in your base. Okay, good. What do you mean Myth is in your base? He's on my team. Anyway, as I was saying, so I guess it got derailed so easily. The difference is leftist people do this on the internet too. We all get heated. Sometimes we say some fucking crazy shit. I've said some shit that can easily be used against me. But the difference is with the left, they're just empty threats. They're people letting out stress oftentimes because there is no power there. There is literally no power there, and it's going against the status quo. But when it's the right, it's literally the status quo. And it's already being, that attitude is already being demonstrated within the current order of society. That attitude and those violent behaviors manifest in the form of police violence, which is apparently 3.5 times more likely to occur when it's cops countering a peaceful leftist protest versus cops countering a peaceful right-wing protest. So it is, that's the reason why it's more devastating. And what have I've talked about this before, like, not all nationalism is created equal. Nationalist movements have been able to thwart imperialism, thwart colonialism in numerous other countries. Nationalism can be used, or nationalist movements have risen up around the world to fight back against colonial superpowers. But Nationalism, when you are the colonial superpower, leads to fascism. Okay? You understand? You get it? And this is the same. The principle holds. If you are the one who has all the power, and yet you are feeling as though you are weak, or you're presenting yourself as though you are weak,
how would that apply to Scottish nationalism?
In an effort to justify additional violence upon those who you declare to be enemies, when there is already so much violence occurring in the present order that you have created, then it's fascism. You understand?
Pepog.
That's the big difference between violence on the left and violence on the right, or violent statements on the left versus violent statements on the right. White nationalists will go and kill, 30 Latino people in Walmart specifically to fucking kill them. Like, travel there and kill them. And that will be seen as like a lone wolf attack. Not a lone wolf attack, sorry. That will be seen as a person, a kid who was mentally disturbed or something. But Antifa is the violence one. Antifa is the violent ideology, right? If you ask Americans, they're like, Antifa is so violent. Why? Why? Because they fucking broke Starbucks windows? Which one is infinitely and way more significantly more violent? Like, which ideology is more violent? People run around saying BLM and Antifa are terrorists. Well, holy shit. Antifa has 0 police kills. Right now, Trump supporters have more cop kills than fucking Antifa. So what happened? Who's more pro-cop? I think Antifa is probably more pro-cop than fucking Trump supporters are, I guess.
May Allah protect and guide US people, Baba.
You understand what I'm saying? ...2016 Dallas cop shooting. Yeah, those guys were Antifa. The Dallas snipers were Antifa, dude. So which one is it then? Is Antifa a bunch of white college kids? Or is Antifa a bunch of black dudes? And that it's actually black people that are a part of Antifa. You can't swap it out. You can't say that like ex-military dudes are now Antifa, but also simultaneously everyone in Antifa is a soy boy white kid with an art degree. It's like black military vet radicalized into fucking sniping cops is simultaneously Antifa and BLM, but also Antifa and BLM are all white people at the same time. Good take.
In places like Salem. I had my hand broken by a Proud Boy at a massive 1,000-person street fight that the police didn't even show up at. One of the key organizers of the left-wing counter-protest to Unite the Right. She was assaulted by a mob of neo-Nazis.
We are pinned in. We are surrounded on all sides.
One of the people in that mob who assaulted her, he's a popular white nationalist live streamer.
We're standing up for our rights. We're proud to be white.
He was present at the Capitol on the 6th, inciting people to storm the Capitol.
Dude, we're in the Capitol right now.
When you're asking about like what were the signs, how did this develop? It developed exactly the way that anti-fascist activists have been warning it has been for years. These people are drawing a movement to them and inciting violence around the country, and eventually it will burst in some way that's too big to ignore it. And it finally did.
Yup. Sure did. All right, let's